Good morning. I'd like to call this work session of the Southampton Town Board to order on this 25th day of February, 2021. Please rise if you're able and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the
of the United States of America,
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice
for all.
for all.
Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Supervisor Schneiderman,
Here.
Councilwoman Lofstad,
Here.
Councilman Martell,
Here.
Councilman Bouvier,
Here.
Councilman Scavone.
Present.
All right, excellent. And I guess we're not starting with Ryan today. So what we'll do is we'll go to the first item on our agenda. If Ryan comes on later, we can get a COVID update, but we did recently have one. So, so the first item on our agenda is the Pyrrhus Concert House. Or I guess it said Pyrrhus Concert. I'll have to learn how to properly say it.
I think you said it right.
Pyrrhus or Pyrrhus?
I think
Pyrrhus.
it's Pyrrhus Concert.
Pierce.
Pyrrhus. We'll hear what the historians have to say on that one.
Pyrrhus
So,
Concert.
so this is a property that belonged to a gentleman, a freed slave who came up north and became a businessman and philanthropist, a mariner who was involved with a major rescue over, I guess, in Japan area. We'll maybe hear some of the history there, but it's really kind of important. He's an important player in our local history, particularly as an African-American man. If we think that there's systemic racism now and it's very difficult for people to compete on a level playing field, imagine it at the time that Pyrrhus Concert lived. And not only was he able to succeed, but he was able to give back. And in a town of such great wealth as Southampton, where a lot of is what they call old money, a lot of wealth that's been multi-generational. Some of that, may trace back to times where slavery was legal and people were able to profit from the exploitation of others. So I think it's a really powerful symbol to be able to honor an individual like this in our community. We've been doing a bunch of different things. So the first step is CPF stepped in and acquired the property. The house was dismantled, and that was sad, but we were not able to acquire it in time to save it from being dismantled, but it was dismantled in a way where it can be put back together. All the elements were properly numbered. So we did acquire that property. We've also acquired the piece adjoining it. These pieces are right along Agawam Park in the village of Southampton. And, we're working with various individuals who'll be on this who'll be on this Zoom call in terms of restoring the house and creating a historic park-like compound there to honor this individual. So we're going to begin our conversation. And let me just say who is here. We have Lisa Combrink, who is our CPF program manager. We have I think Dr. Georgette Grier-Key. Is Georgette here? Okay, maybe not yet.
Coming in.
Okay, she's coming in now. Brenda Simmons, I believe, is here.
She's on the line.
Hi, all.
Hey, Brenda. Good.
I don't know if you can see me. My video seems like it's not working.
I'm not seeing your video yet, so just.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but anyway, I'm here.
Do you see a start video button?
It's not there. It's really unusual. It's not here.
Okay, well, we can.
No, they have to promote you as host. They have
might
to
have to
promote
be
you. They
promoted.
have to promote you.
Okay.
I like to be promoted.
And Georgette has been promoted. Dr. Georgette Grier-Key, and then we have Bill Chaliff, from Chalif and Rogers Architecture, and of course, Mayor Jesse Warren. And let me see if there's anyone else on who I didn't mention. Oh, well, Len Marchese's here for budgetary things as well, our controller. Is that it? Did I miss anybody? All right, so who's gonna open the conversation?
If it's okay, I can make a quick opening, but really this is the work of Brenda and Dr. Key and the team here. So all I wanted to do is just really thank the town board, council, Clerk Schirmeyer, and everybody here. We've got a great team. Dr. Key, Brenda Simmons, Bill Chalif is here, who's come up with plans, and just wanted to thank everyone. The goal today is for our team to give you an update as to where the project stands so that the town board and Lisa as well, everyone is up to speed, and then what additional asks might be on the way. But really, we're just here, I'm here on behalf of our village board of trustees to show support to the group. So really wanted to pass this off to Dr. Key, and Brenda, who are our two leaders here. But we just wanted to thank again the board and the CPF fund for the initial acquisition of the property. And the one thing we wanted to note is Supervisor Schneiderman, after conversing with you, the request was to have the property landmarked. We worked to get this in front of our architectural review board, who since then has landmarked the property in the village. So that was a big achievement for us. And we also have our grant writer, Nicole Christian, coming in, who's been instrumental. Her goal, as she might explain, is not only to get an application in front of you guys, but go out to the Gardner Foundation and other foundations that are available to supplement any funding that might come our way. So without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Dr. Key.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Dr. Georgette Key. I was the lead organizer for this effort. And I did see that Nicole has come in because she has an appointment. So this was the house as it stood before it was demolished. So this just gives you an idea of the house. And the Peer Wisconsin Action Committee started in 2013 to save this house. So these are, as you see, there were other members a part of the initial process, but as it stands, this is who we're partnered with, the Southampton African American Museum and Eastville Community Historical Society. We have advisors, the AIA Peconic, and also Preservation Long Island. And we're dealing specifically with New York State Preservation Office and also support of the Museum Association of New York. And this is important to us for many reasons. As you know, the legacy and the life of Peer Wisconsin is so important in his achievements, which the town, which we think has already invested in this process, as well as the village. So we have his historic marker, and of course we had a street naming back in 2015. So in 2020, it was the 5th year celebration, but of course we could not do that because of COVID. So we're still celebrating. We're now in our 6th year of recovery of this property. So as Mayor Jesse said, some of these pictures are old, but the fact that we've updated it in on January 11, 2021, it was landmarked unanimously. So we're happy with that. And we say onward and upward. So in the beginning, what you see here is a beginning part of the process where we were able to deconstruct and take the original membranes from the actual structure that were significant. And this is a report from Bob Strata. And this is important because, again, there's been so much investment and effort going into this process. So far, the town purchased the property for over $5 million. The village at this point has contributed about $200,000 for this process to do the investigation and to make sure that the house is properly stored and that we can put it up. So last winter, this was the actual membranes of the house that was shipped up the island to see if we can put it together and to see what things were missing, what we needed to add. The white marks that you see are the labels of the actual membranes, and by standing by me in the back are some architectural plans from Chaliff and Rogers. We would visit the site regularly to check on the process of it. So the building definitely can go up with some additions to some spaces. So we look at this project in its wholeness. And in the wholeness of the project, what we see is the house itself being restored close to 1 million. And these are real-time numbers. These are not estimates. These are real-time estimates that our construction manager, Roger Casello, went out and actually already bid it, got the what cost would be. So we have a real estimate to what it actually would cost and not just a conceptual idea. And then the visitor center is 2.3. And the total project is about 3.5. So this here is the site plan that was developed by me, Brenda, and Chaliff and Rogers. We actually did a charrette process. So it was a planning process of what actually is associated with Pieris Concert's life. All of the attributes that we look at in history. So everything that is put into this plan comes directly from his life and planning from surveys and different things with the community. So that is the plan, the overall plan that we see associated with his life. There are components in there. We can discuss that further if you would like. But I want to go over some other things. What we think is this project is 18 to 24 months can be completed. Again, this will be a state-of-the-art site according to ADA, social distancing, et cetera, et cetera. So this would be the actual house that we would make sure that we preserve and that it won't be overused because there are existing plans to have certain things exposed to see the architectural rendering, like the Roman numbers that we see there. So we want people to see the early construction technology that went on. So this is the cottage. This is the cottage. Just recently, we are now updating the CRIS system, which is the state system of historic places that houses all of the information. We're in the process of updating it for an architectural district because what you see here, some of the artifacts that came out of the archaeological dig, which was part of what the village invested in looking at the project. So this place matters, as we know, and we're happy to have these artifacts that really tell the story of his life. So we're working on that. So this is going to be added. And not only are we looking forward to updating the historic district on the SHPO level, but also national level. So we see this project as a multi-project that has been going on for a while with the Pieris Concert Action Committee and securing the homestead for Pieris Concert, looking at this relationship with the village, with the town, and also private funders that will help us. And there is such a bigger plan we have a walking app. We have several documentations today. There's actually a digital publication that I will be able to send out that was created from the Long Island Museum, where we contributed Pieris Concert's history. And this year we also presented at the Preservation League of New York State. So this is in front of a lot of eyes, and the financial support we feel will be in place. So the overall budget, as I said before, Nicole, if you want to take over here, but this is how we worked out the budget and seeking grants. We have to have the fullness of the project because you can't have two bites at the apple. So we're looking at a multi-funding strategy, and that's what we're bringing to the table. Upfront costs for the house, we are seeking assistance from CPF. And the village is also adding to that. So we're looking to match this money with private funding, which we have reached out to multiple levels of funders on the state level, on the national level, and also on the local level. Nicole, are you there?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm here. You have to excuse me. I actually am getting COVID testing. Excuse me. I got my COVID test about 10 minutes ago. I'm waiting for the results in the parking lot. I won't say too much. Thank you so much for the time. But as Dr. Key shared with you, these are real live in-field budget numbers. Roger Carcella did a great job, went out and spoke with vendors, folks that he and I have both worked on similar historical restoration projects. So it's real time, real in the field numbers. And as Dr. Key shared with you, the idea, my role is to develop the funding strategy. So the front end for the home, thank you for advancing the slide. The front end for the home is the $1 million. And then the other, yes, this slide here, the second Excel spreadsheet will share with you the total amount for the visitor center. So the idea is for me, which I've already done, I've already gone out to multiple foundations at the state and national and local level. We're also working with AIA on a marketing strategy to look at some private donors that I've already been contacted by a few that are very interested in this project. I guess the Black History Month element, as well as some other things, the timing just seemed to be right for some donors, and they've been in touch with us. So that's the strategy and goal moving on from here. My idea today is to take back from you, from the board, anything that I need to be thinking about to add to my activity level or my call to action from today. So thank you very much.
Okay, so at this point, if you want to have some questions, but just to mention some of the people that we've gone after, again, we've gone after the state for planning, we've gone after the Gardner Foundation for funding, we've gone after the National Trust for Historic Preservations, we're going after money at IMLS. So there are a few grants that we have. We have a grant calendar that we're working on. So we hope that, you know, that's what we're bringing to the table, along with our in-kind service of years to the project. And we think the sustainability of this project in adding to not just the recreational area that we're looking to, but also an edutainment, education plus the entertainment of it all, to make it a holistic site, and a holistic site that is given back to the community. So when all of us are long gone, they are invested into this site and into the community. So we're giving it back to the community so that it's a place that they want to use. It's a place that they can go. We see this site as a site of consciousness, which is a real-time organization that we will be applying for, where conversations can be had, art can be done, reading nooks and libraries and different things like that. So that's what we see this site as. So at this point, I feel that, you know, we looked at this for many years, and I don't know if you have any questions specifically about any part of the project.
Yeah, I have a number of questions.
Supervisor.
So let me start out first with the house itself. There was a picture you showed earlier that was quite a bit different than that I'm seeing on my screen. So were there things added that were not historic? Yeah, so.
Well, yes, it was deemed that the parts of the house that we saved is the most historic part of the house. So a lot of it, and again, Supervisor, I want to be as diplomatic as I possibly can. Do we know that for sure that there were not other parts? I can't answer that, but this is what we see, because I will tell you the Jupiter Hammond house up in Huntington, it looks identical to this house, which is landmarked.
So you're not going to be doing that porch or the back section, just the center section?
Well, we can modify as you would allow your suggestion.
I'm trying to. Well, I guess what I'm saying is that what the other drawing you showed looked different than this. Are we building that I'm seeing there, or are we building the other thing? That doesn't look the same.
This is over the years, they believe that there were some improvements to the property. Not that I'm a purist in a sense, but I do feel those additions would have added to the contextualize the property growing over time. But as far as what was saved, according to earlier reports, is that they feel that this is the original size of the original house that dates back to that time, looking at other historic properties that date to this time. And that's why they went with this actual plan. I don't think we would not be opposed. We are doing improvements in this property. I believe that there will be heat. So there are modern day improvements, which, when you think about this as an overall recreational park, it would make sense, have bathrooms, public bathrooms, etc. So absolutely, if that's a suggestion, we can take that into consideration.
Right. So no, I just wanted to reconcile the differences. So I would understand better what you're proposing reconstructing there. Secondly, like in the budget, I noticed some things that I'm not sure that CPF can cover, maybe, but there was something about an office and kiosks The last item, the 150,000 office renovating, including, now that's within that house building, right?
If you see there, there's an existing structure that is the pool house that they call the pool house.
Okay.
And that in itself is on the map. That is on an earlier map from the 1940s. And if we had a brief discussion about that if if we wanted to go back and landmark this actual structure, it should qualify because it is on a 1940s map.
Okay, so that's where the office would be, in that building?
Yes, and then the kiosk is the plan for the kiosk is to be in the beginning on where you see Pond Lane. There's a kiosk there because remember we had the CAD ferry boat in the water, and we're trying to connect this site with the water site so that this is where people will come and buy their tickets for the ferry boat.
Okay,
Or
because
ahead.
of the restrictive nature of CPF funds, we're just gonna have to make sure that those items are fundable. But the lawyers can figure that out, I think.
Yeah, Lisa was very helpful, Supervisor. I've been in close contact with Lisa. She shared with me the policy and the grant requirements. So I'll make sure that, we talk in depth before I prepare the final package.
So the other thing I wanted to go over too, because the town does own this, and I believe we have an IMA with the village, but the board, I think, would have to formally approve these other things. So I don't think there's any issue with the reconstruction of the house. I think that was always understood. But some of the other things, can we go over what the other things are? I see like a water feature, which I'm assuming is some sort of rain garden, an amphitheater, it looks like it might be. Maybe.
Okay, Supervisor, can I just go back a minute? Every plan that you see here, before it predates Lisa, we actually have a memo, a correspondence between us and Mary Williams when we discussed every plan that you see here. We did not go ahead and create this plan without discussing it with Mary. We brought it back to her. I did forward that document to the mayor. I could try to look it up and send it to you, but we discussed what could be on the site in regards to improvements. One of the things
maybe
that
the board has already approved the site plan, but if the board has not approved the site plan, we need to do that. So can we discuss what the site plan is?
Sure. Okay, so again, and when we say, you see the elevations here on the bottom of my screen, because when people say amphitheater, I think that freaks people out. What we were looking at is basically similar to, and even on a smaller scale than the Seaman Museum has, which is an outside place. Being that we have, unfortunately, this pandemic, we think this outside space will be valuable, and there is a lot of money and concentration around getting people outdoors. So this is timely. But this here would be where there will be a downgrade in the property itself, in the grounds, so that we have these seats here so that people can sit. If there was a talk, if there was singing, which Paris Concert had him allowed, he's noted for having this voice that allowed the Japanese sailors to be infatuated with him. So we want to pull that element from his life and have singing or talks. You see here, this is the original building where they would be able to drive up. There are a few parking spaces in the back. And that's what you see here. We'll have parking here. So this water is definitely supposed to be a rain garden, but we wanted to make sure that the pedestrian and improved landscape is, how do people utilize the land? How do they get from one place to another, especially if they're not driving a car? So again, connecting this water feature, which would be like a rain garden, drips of water that would associate with the pond itself. And this we see is the visitor center, where we would have classrooms, bathrooms, storage for exhibits, and etc. I don't know if Bill would like to unmute himself and have something more to say, but again, this was done in a charrette process type of thing, where we pulled elements, and we also looked at what is practical for museums. As you know, the Southampton Historical Museum, they have a site further down the street, but it's not usable. You want to protect the actual site itself, but you also want to be able to use it so that people come back time and time again. So we envision some interchangeable exhibit space as well. So people have a reason to come back. And then connecting again to the ferry, which would be sustaining financially. We're looking at how this building will be sustained financially over time. So that's what we see as the site plan. People will be able to sit outside, public bathrooms if possible, and just a real environment for a park-like setting with this building, to have room for other activities.
Okay, so that the visitor center,
Hey, if I just could ask a quick question about the amphitheater. Hi and welcome. I'll speak later, but as far as the amphitheater goes, does it have a sight line to Agawam Park?
It's actually it's downgraded. I mean, if you're sitting on the top, I'm sure. And Nicole, if you're still there, we determined that we don't want to use the word amphitheater. I know Roger came up with a really good name for it, because we think that's
outdoor outdoor recreational space, which is more acceptable for the state, for the grants. They prefer more broad categories so they can be used for talk, passive recreation, sitting, listening, that kind of thing. Amphitheater has a certain definition as far as the state is concerned.
Okay, understood, for lack of a better word. Okay. Thank you. Now, I'm just wondering if the outdoor rec space has a view of the park and the pond. I mean, might be a nice place to have lunch and people just
in this area. In this area here, you absolutely will have a sight line to the pond, and that's why we have this water feature, like just connecting it. It's winding, but it's trying to make that connection here. And then this is actually downgraded. So like I said, it's grading of the property in the ground. So I imagine that these few will have access to see the pond. But other than that, I don't think many of the seats will have it because it's directly in back of the house.
Thank you.
so
And then if you see over here, you see a little table. It's really small, but this is like a little table meeting space. These are classrooms. We have storage. You see the stairs. So there are a lot of features in here that will make the building useful in a way that it can be utilized by the community.
So the price or the cost of the visitor center, the 2.3 million, and the site work, you're going to be raising funds other than CPF funds for, correct?
Yes.
No,
that's
what
correct,
we're.
Supervisor.
Is there going to be is there a concession here or no? No concession at the visitor center?
We don't have it, but we wouldn't be opposed to it because whatever is going to help us be financially sustainable is a great idea. When we had the ferry service there, we had the Sea Scouts, and the Sea Scouts would sell popcorn. Right there, they had a little popcorn machine. They would sell right on the sidewalk there next to the monument, or water, whatever. So we wouldn't be opposed to it if that's something we should include and you would like that. I think it's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, I'd rather we cross that bridge later and make that decision. Right now, it's not part of the planning, right?
No,
Okay.
no, it's not part of the planning.
Yes, Supervisor, if I might add, I did have the numbers from Roger on the concession. I kept it separate only because I thought that could be considered an add-on, as it were. That was kind of like a nice to have add-on, but I do have the numbers from Roger about the concession.
Would that be,
in fact,
that would be within the visitor center though, correct?
right, it would be the visitor center portion. That's what he looked at, sure.
All right, so I just think the board has to be aware of everything that's contemplated for the complex here. And partly because, obviously it's CPF, but we want to make sure that the integrity of the house is maintained. So obviously anything that goes on this site, we'd be interested in the architecture of it, the placement of it, and how it will enhance the historic benefit of the house, not detract from it. So, and then I think we're going to need as a board to adopt a site plan so that there's no confusion later on. So at some point we'll have to do a resolution with an attachment and saying that, yes, this is what the board is consenting to. So,
Okay, and Supervisor, in regards to the building, the placement of it, the placement of it in the materials, we took that in consideration. And one of the main reasons why we want to make sure that the original house is secure and maintained and with its integrity. I know that we looked at various materials that would be in keeping with the era and also our community as it is. But there was a medallion also that was constructed with Pyrrhus Concert's face, you know, the big picture that we see on all of the pamphlets of the celebration, you know, that probably would be an artist piece, but we were very cognizant to make sure that the integrity of the home was maintained. But then also, how does this house, the property serve this era of time in the community? So looking at all of that was taken in consideration in the formula.
can I ask Bill Chaliff an architectural question?
Certainly.
I keep, yes, go ahead, Bill.
So Bill, obviously the gem of this property is going to be this small home that was inhabited by Pyrrhus. So behind it though is going to be this visitor center. So what is your thinking? What's your approach in terms of designing the visitor center? Are you going for modern elements to not conflict, or are you going, like, what's your thinking?
The building, it's behind me, and I don't know if you can see the plan there, or we could go back to the site plan on the screen. It's up to you. But the building was pressed as far away to the west of the original existing house. So it didn't crowd the house. We wanted to remove it as far back as the property as we would be allowed to. And we're right up against the setback lines. Thank you. Right up against the setback line where the parking is in the rear. And that's where a school bus would drop people off. And there are bathrooms accessible from the rear also, which would also be accessible during hours when the interpretive center is not open. So if there were people in need of facilities, ADA facilities, they would be able to utilize them. The walkway up from Pond Lane, that serpentine walkway interlaced with the little waterway, is that shape because it allows for 1 and 12th grade for wheelchair accessibility, ADA accessibility from Pond Lane. So up that brick walk, a first stop would be at the Pyrrhus Concert House, and then you could keep going up to the interpretive center. The interpretive center, the main building, is in two wings with a little link. The main link is a very quiet building. It's 2 stories, but the 1 story is totally underground, so it's as low as we could make it. The material on the outside is a dark brick, a quiet color. It's not, it's not red, white, and blue or yellow or anything like that. It's a minimal volume to handle the program, and it's just a simple shape, a quiet shape of just a rectangle. The link where you enter between the two, you come right through that main entrance, and then you can go after you check in at the left. There's a counter inside, right there. That's right, and through those doors, and then on the left is a counter where you would get a ticket or ask information. There would be staff there available, and then as you come in through their right, there's a staircase, and you would access the classrooms and the storage, the other rooms, and there are also the bathrooms, right, again, accessible from the inside. On the left side, again, of the link, that building is shaped as an echo of the Pyrrhus Concert residence itself. That's a small little gable-shaped building that would be wood-clad. So we're sort of having a bridge in time. Yes, that building there, a bridge in time that connects the Pyrrhus Concert House to the recreational center.
Is that a breezeway between them? Is that what you said?
No, it's glass. It's glass. A little flat roof link that's fully glazed with double doors to prevent breezes from running through in the winter, right, on each end, accessible from the pond lane side and also from the rear, because again, people might be parking in the rear, or school buses, a school bus might come in one at a time, and people would use that rear entrance, but they both bring you to that same in between lobby. And from the lobby, again, there's a counter and a desk for control people, and then inside the brick building is all the facilities required.
What are those things surrounding the circle outside?
Oh, those are planters.
Okay.
Those are planters, right? Oh, again, to illustrate again what would be a garden or planted at that time for either food or decorative plant material, material of the time.
And then within the building, the large room is
The large room is actually subdivided. It's two equal rooms with a folding wall in between, so it can be opened into one big space.
Okay. And how will that be used? Is that
Classrooms,
exhibits?
multifunction. We don't even know what will actually go on there. We're trying to make the building as flexible as possible to accommodate any and all uses that program might require.
What's the approximate size of that visitor center?
Boy, you caught me off guard there, Jay. I'll get that back to you. The numbers are on here, but they're, difficult to read.
I think it's like 3,000. Nicole, are you there, including the lower level? I think it's like 3,000 square feet.
Square feet. Mhm.
I think so.
3,000? And that includes the lower level?
Yes, this is not a very large building.
Yeah, no, that's not very large at all.
Right.
And supervisor, don't hold me to the numbers. Charge it to my, don't charge it to my heart.
Yeah.
But I don't want to, but I think it's around 3,000, but like Bill said, we'll get you the exact specs. We can get you all of the drawings. We have multiple layers of drawings, etc. They're really in depth. We can get all of that to you.
Okay.
Bill, I have a question about the water feature. Is that a pond that pumps water up the hill and then it kind of trickles?
Exactly. Yes, it recycles. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly right. Mhm.
It recycles. Does it add water as well? Like that pond at the bottom I'm imagining was recharging to the water table. No? So it's
No,
not really,
we can't.
it's not a rain garden. It's a water feature, not a rain garden.
Correct. With drainage for the building and the paving will be accommodated with rain gardens, but this is a water feature so that this would always be flowing. And again, because water was such a primary central part of Pyrrhus Concert's life, that we thought it would be very important to weave that water, literally weave it in to the site, to the program, and to the building honoring his life. So there are little benches. There are a few places as you come up that walkway, immediately past the first bend. That's the second bend. Right there is a bench, and at the bottom of the arrow is a little round. There's a little circle under the arrow. Yes, that circle is the kiosk. So people who want to buy tickets for the ferry would just come up a little way to that kiosk, buy tickets for the ferry, but you could sit at that bench and again, look at Agawam Park and the lake, or continue up, and there are two other places with benches as you come up. There's one there and another one there, little bench. And the round circular paving is an entryway, but also could be used for various programs. We don't know exactly what kind of programs. Might be little kids, just a story time, and not rather than the other seating, which may be too large for a group of 10 people. Then this smaller paving area would accommodate smaller programs, scaled programs.
Is the ferry, it sounds like the ferry is part of the financial sustainability planning. Can somebody tell me about the ferry? Is it like a historic recreation? Is there a role play, somebody playing Pyrrhus, or is it just take you to the beach? What is it?
Yes, no, yes. Well, actually, we give it there. We have a script for that they're talked about Pyrrhus Constant's life. On the actual boat, there is a placard, a sign with him and his life, and they are given the tour guide gives a reenactment of what he did, who he was, etc. And the Nick Palumbo was a part of that process, and we're still in contact. We have many partners that from the community that's been here for a long time, but he was a part of that. And so I keep him, we email each other every now and then. So that's what happens with that boat. We would be actively looking a part of the program, what we wanted to do. There is an active Sea Scout troop, and we're still working with the Sea Scouts themselves, so that also brings in, our future board members, etc. But to have them active on the site as well, and to continue to be involved with the site.
So it's more,
and, maybe it's a meeting place for them. They learn how to tie knots, or they talk about welling. So that's a part of the
right.
larger
So if
plan.
I'm understanding it right, Doctor, it's sort of like a museum exhibit that there'll be like maybe 1 or 2 trips a day or something, and people can buy their tickets for it. It's not the kind of thing where I park downtown and I want to go to the beach, I'll take the ferry to the beach. It's more connected to the museum.
If
Absolutely.
I can add to that, it's unfortunate if anyone has not ever taken that ride, because it's the ride that Pierce Concert gave people. And I went on that ride several times, and I also was on there helping out with originally with the story. And it's an amazing, amazing, amazing ride on that ferry that you have to experience it to really understand the feeling you get when you're on that little boat. So I'm hoping that we can work out, and I think we're working on that as well anyway, to try to reenact that. But the boat is beautiful. I'm sorry, I had a picture of the boat. I don't have it on me now, but it was a very, very nice boat.
So it doesn't, Brenda, it's not going to dock somewhere at the south end of the lake. It just comes right back to the same spot.
Right. That's the whole plan. That's what they would come on the Agawam Park side. They would take the ride up Agawam Lake and circle back down and get off on the dock. So it wasn't anybody dropping off or anything like that. And we had gotten the permission ahead of time of the residents around that park. But I understand that it's a possibility we might have to go back again to remind them, or to reiterate that we're going to be doing that. But it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And when I was going down on Saturdays, you can't imagine how many kids and parents came on that little boat. It was really a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I actually would hand out flyers, educational flyers to, for them to take with them as well. So it was a really extremely educational piece as well.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. All right, let me go back to the board for questions. So anybody else have questions about this?
I do.
I do. I have just a quick question. I know that you guys said there was going to be artifacts. Are they going to be in the visitor center or in the house, or both?
Well, we will have not just the artifacts, but yes, they will be in the house because that's where they came out from. But we will also have, some replicas in the actual spaces. We do want to have an exhibit, like if the house is closed, like say if we decide there's going to be something at 4 or 5 and the house is closed, we want them to be able to see it. But definitely they should be a permanent fixture in the house.
But meantime, also we have a wonderful display counter display that we have put in the museum, the Southampton African American Museum. So we will also introduce them there originally, while we're waiting to actually transfer them over to the concert homestead. So that definitely some of the artifacts will be definitely displayed at the Southampton African American Museum as well.
And could people donate artifacts, if they had something that they thought may be appropriate for that?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. My husband's great grandfather was a whaler, so I'll dig around through our stuff. Who knows what I'll come up with.
Oh, Julie, that'd be great. Absolutely. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. We have renderings in our collection. We also have renderings from a local artist who did prints of Paris concert. We have images from Japan. So we have quite a good start, better start than most organizations. So we're happy with the artifacts that we have and the art from local artists that recreated from the stories in the oral history. They have created some prints that we have.
Great,
One of the
thank you.
artifacts they found, there was a calligraphy brush that they researched, and they really know that was from Japan, and they believe that it was a gift given to Pierce Concert for rescuing the Japanese sailors that were wrecked ships. So, you know, there's some wonderful things that we're going to have on display, but that's one of the things I just want to mention, besides so many other wonderful archaeological findings that we found there on the site.
Tommy John?
Yeah, I'd like to welcome everyone. It's good to see you. And, you know, given our history, I think that, you know, I really like that this project is moving along. Brenda, you and I went out there and we took a look at the structure and the mortise and tenon construction and the numbers that are on there. That house was probably moved at some point before it got here, but I don't know. But that was pretty common at the time. Now, just to clarify something, Purist Concert was born in Southampton.
Yes.
Right. He was born, and New York, just so everybody knows, slavery was legal in New York. It wasn't until 1785 that we stopped the importation of slaves, and 1799 that we kind of amortized the ending of slavery. So that is certainly part of our past, and it's appropriate to do this. I have some questions for the mayor and the village. I see this project as something that really provides an anchor for the north end of Lake Agawam with the park there. Is this something that the village of Southampton, really wants to see, and, as part of the development of the village of Southampton?
Councilperson Scavone, thanks so much for the
Mr. Mayor.
questions. And we knew you were a teacher as well with the history lesson. The answer is very simple. Yes, absolutely. This is something that is not only critical to African-American history, but it's critical to the history of Southampton and the whaling industry and many other histories in general. Currently, the lot exists, but this would be just a dramatic improvement to the overall property. And it would also be a phenomenal learning experience for all ages. The educational aspect is also important because there's many people who are unaware of the significant achievements and the ability of Pierce Concert to overcome, all obstacles in order to get to his position to be one of the most substantial whalers, not just in the country, but around the world. So this is with a warm welcome. The village has already approved the resolution to also contribute up to $500,000. Our Parks Department will also be maintaining the property as well. So we are 100% prepared to help maintain the property and help support the process, also as evidenced by the Architectural Review Board providing the historic landmark. And then in addition, we also brought on Nicole Christian, grant writer, on behalf of the village as well to help us. And then one thing that also hasn't been brought up is that any public money that has been contributed, we've learned from Preserve Long Island that the Gardner Foundation oftentimes will like to match those funds. So any funds that we get, both from the village and the town, will have a good chance of getting matching funds from the Gardner Foundation. So I hope that helps, represent what the village's point of view is here.
It does. Thank you. And that answers one of the questions that I was going to ask about maintenance of the grounds of the building and what is the plan for stewardship of this structure? I know we're doing a lot of work, in conjunction with the village, with the African American History Museum, which is in the village of Southampton. Is this something that who's going to be maintaining this?
We would
Theoretically.
be, Southampton African American Museum would be the stewards of this project for sure. And we had to, in order to get the funding, we had to have a nonprofit involved since 2013 that was established through the IMA and also a license agreement, which I have to go back to Jesse and find out, we'll make sure that's in place. But definitely the IMA definitely states that. And if you need a copy, I'm sure someone could supply that for you.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure I had that question. I like this project in the location where it is near the park. I think there's a lot of really great things going on. I'm impressed to see the detail that you all provided there. You actually had a number for spackle on your number that I saw really quickly, so I appreciate that. And like the supervisor said, we're going to have to go through it and make our decisions based on that. But thank you, and thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
And thank you. This has been many years we've spent with the whole process. I don't know how long. I think, Bill, I see records from 2017 when we started on this process, working on this plan. So we spent a lot of time trying to, consult with nearby museums. Tom Edmonds was an early founder with the PCAC. So we've talked to a lot of people locally and abroad. One of the other sites that we looked at, you may want to check it out on the web, or if you ever have time, it's called Weeksville in Brooklyn. They have 17th century hunter-fly homes, and then on the other side, they have a visitor center, which is similar. So please look up Weeksville in Brooklyn. It is one of the sites that we looked at and think that it's a very important site, just as important as Weeksville, and we kind of looked at the plans that they've had.
Other board questions? Georgette, when you develop your exhibits, obviously most of it will center around purists. But I think it might be good to tell the larger story as well at a site like this about, slavery in America. Even that point that Councilman Schiavone brought up. A lot of people don't think of New York as a slave area, and it certainly was. So they think of that, oh, that's something that happened down south. But we had slavery all throughout the Northeast. So
The second biggest slaveholding state in the colonies. The second largest slaveholding state in the colonies.
yeah, so I think that's important to tell that part of the story too, the larger context of it. The other thing I was wondering whether this building, not the visitor center, but the Purist Concert House, whether that might be eligible for the state historic registry or even a national historic registry.
Yes, Supervisor, and we listed, it is listed as contributing, but now we're going back to list it individually through criteria of rehabilitation. We have, I reached out to SHPO, and I spoke directly with Jennifer Boxwork, who handles our Long Island area. And this is on her radar. The state historian just published the fact that we've got a landmark. So the state is already all over this, and that is our intention to go back and not just include this, but the whole district needs an update. So that's what we have plans also to work on, but this will definitely be listed individually through the rehabilitation criteria. I'm losing my voice.
Maybe there's a question for Lisa, but the village has landmarked it. Landmarking it is part of our process. We can't fund it unless it's landmarked. But do we, the town, have to landmark it, or is the village designation sufficient?
The village designation is sufficient for this purpose.
Okay.
And I just wanted to also add, just to follow up on Councilman Scavone's question about stewardship. We do anticipate that there will be an amendment to the intermunicipal agreement between the village and the town, and also that we will have another master agreement for this particular project. And that's something that we have a template for, and that this group has discussed that we will finalize for the village and the town board's review once we get a little further along.
Thank you. So Lisa, I trust
Thank
that
you, Lisa, for that.
Lisa, I trust that you'll bring forward any resolutions we need, including a resolution approving the site plan for
Yes,
this?
yes.
Okay. And do any board members have, are we okay so far with what we heard in terms of the design? I am, but is everybody okay with the massing and the use of the property for these other buildings? I'm seeing a lot of nodding, so I'll take
Yes.
that
Yes.
as a sort of a conceptual approval here. So keep moving it
Happy
forward.
hand.
Really appreciate all the work you guys are doing here to honor this individual, but also I think honor or remember this period and telling that story of sort of who we are as a nation. I think it's very important, and as a community. So
And before you go, Supervisor, I was trying to jump on and off the cell phone. You know how it was. I shared with you all, I had to get COVID testing today. Today was just not the best, but I didn't want to miss it. Before we go, I just need some direction as far as confirming what our next steps are. I did take some notes here, and what I have is that we need to move forward with finalizing the site plan for the town to review and approve. And that would be very helpful for me because I cannot put together a grant application without an approved site plan. The grant funders are going to ask me for that, particularly at the state and the federal level, and even the trust, the historic trust that Dr. Key referred to. They require a site plan.
right. So the site plan, which will go through the village, not the town, we can approve that, I think, relatively quickly. In terms of actually constructing, whether this gets bid, I would imagine it's going to get bid separately, that there'll be one bid to do the historic restoration and then everything else. So, and since we're paying for the historic restoration, we would probably be handling that entire bidding process. I don't know that we're going to handle the bidding process for the rest of it. I'll leave that to Lisa to let me know. Of course, it has to meet all of the municipal requirements, so all the prevailing wage requirements and ADA requirements and everything, and health department, everything else. Lisa, do you know, or since we're not paying, we're only paying for the historic restoration of the concert house, we would do the bid package for that? Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. But I don't think it would make sense for us to handle the visitor center and the rest of the site improvements because, that isn't under the auspices of CPF or CPF funding. So I think it would be appropriate if the village handled that. And as you mentioned, as long as the municipal bidding requirements and procurement and prevailing wage are followed, I think we would follow that, of course, but then we would be fine.
Do you, Nicole or Georgette, do you see this as a two-phase project where we reconstruct? Because we can reconstruct the house probably much sooner than you'll be able to
Well,
even start.
we
on
don't
the
look
other
at
part.
it. We don't look at it that way, Supervisor, for multiple reasons. And we are looking, and Nicole can answer this about the funding, because we're looking to match the funds, which gives us a leg up. So we try not to separate it in that way. So we still think that with the way we've outlined it, that we still would have a good turnaround time to have the shovel in the ground. And part of the funding structure from the Gardner Foundation, others, they want to know that you are shovel ready. So we won't be held up, as long as we can prove that you're shovel ready, because unfortunately some projects were not shovel ready, and I don't want to get into that. But yeah, we need to make sure that we can match all of the money that we get to maximize our potential with this property.
All right. So we would not be building the concert house first. We would basically be leveraging the town's commitment to rebuild the concert house so that you can get more money for the visitor center, correct? And then everything would be constructed simultaneously?
Right. The way that,
Nicole?
the way that Roger and we have conceptualized this is the project itself is one complete comprehensive plan, and we will complete it on a timeline. So the timeline is I think Dr. Key shared with you, he's estimating, 12 to 22 months, somewhere in that area, taking in seasonality, this issue with lumber, all these other these contingencies that he laid out to us. For the purposes of our discussion here in this room, if it's easier for you to look at the CPF piece on the front end and the visitor center on the back end, that's fine. But when I'm communicating with funders, they have to know that this is one whole project in order for us to leverage and maximize the match. So I can't separate it into two separate projects. We can manage it concurrently, which I've done before. We can manage it concurrently, but for the purposes of actual presentation, I'm presenting this to the foundations and to New York State, particularly through the Regional Economic Development Council, as an entire project with the village, with the town, with the village, and all these other sources.
We can certainly approve the site plan. We could encumber the money for the reconstruction of the house. And then
that's what I'm thinking.
Can sort of
Thank
sit us on the side until you guys are ready with everything else. So
understood. I appreciate that. This is a complicated process, but I think we're making it easier by looking at it this way, whole, but being done in parts.
All right. So when we'll have to hold
And then what I would say too on the back end, just for the town board and us here, this will be the first type of site constructed for this type of history and in this way. And mostly I get teary-eyed just thinking about it in all of Long Island. So I didn't get into the history because I wanted to focus on the project, but this is hugely, wildly, something that our region doesn't have at all. We don't talk about Northern slavery. We really only have two major examples, which is, Pierce Concert and Jupiter Hammond. And there's sites associated with it, but this will be the first time that we have something of this magnitude. Yes, we're working with the Plain Site Project, and we were original advisors to that. So we know that there were other enslaved persons, but you don't have people that their first name, their last name, their grandparents, what they did, how they died, and where they are. So this in itself is such a huge moment in time for our whole region. And I think that it's definitely going to be an economic driver, but it's also going to be one of those things that we use to teach about Northern slavery. As Councilmember Scavone has said, that people don't understand the nuances of slavery, and the fact that we had it here in his life against all station in life. He was a philanthropist, he was, I like to say affectionately, the community's grandfather, taking care of the children. So I think this is so many different stories that we can tell within just this one man's life, but it matters for today. We can't just talk about history in a silo. I always teach my students, so what, who cares after the who, what, when, why, and how, because that's the only way we're going to get, people interested in this history, because it's a part of them too, and it matters for today.
So let me just go back to Lisa for a second. So it sounds like we'll need a public hearing on the site plan, and a public hearing, maybe one public hearing we can do, and to appropriate whatever it is, the $1 million in CPF money toward the restoration. That it seems like we could schedule that relatively soon.
Agreed. I'll speak to Len and Dorothy regarding the establishment of a capital project in our budget and the timing of that, so that we have that information for the one public hearing. And then I think once we get the site plan that the group would like you to review, then we can schedule that public hearing.
Okay.
So I did have a question going back to the site plan. Bill, maybe you can answer this. There's a lot of infrastructure here, particularly with the IA system. I'm not sure if I'm seeing solar panels on a roof over there or not on the visitors center. We have goals in the town, energy goals, but in particular the IA system. I don't know what the flow rates would be, but would that be a separate application to CPF water quality? Getting back to Brenda's or Nicole's concerns about separate applications, Lisa, maybe you can answer that. Would that be wrapped up in the same application if they were applying for CPF water quality funds for the IA system?
It would be, yes.
All right. Okay, thank you. And Bill, do you intend am I seeing solar panels there? Am I?
Yeah, we're showing the possibility of how many solar panels we could put on there. Those are actually skylights, and on the north side are lighting the rooms inside the building. But the south slope is prime real estate for solar electricity or solar thermal.
Great. Yeah, because, keep in mind our sustainability goals and energy goals, I appreciate that you have that there. It's a great project. When I first came on the board, I remember discussing it with Mary Wilson at the time, and I'm really, really glad to see it getting to this point. So, it can be a model for a whole lot of things.
Absolutely.
So congratulations to all of you guys. You did a great job. Thank you. But I did not see the costing for that in the list. Maybe I missed it. The print was so small.
Plus for which, John?
For the infrastructure, for the IA system, you have a water feature there with pumps and recirculatory systems, the IA system, and runoff management on the hill.
I'll have to take a look at that. I made a note, and I can even put my heads together with Lisa when I get to the point. What I'd like to do with this site plan is also have next to it the grant strategy and layout, because I did speak with the folks over in economic development about water quality funding and possibly some downtown revitalization. So I've got to put that together. I will put that together so that you will have a clear idea along with the site plan. What are we actually looking for what features of the project? That was a really good point. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm trying to pull it up very quickly. Yeah.
I don't know what the time frame for the village's sewer district is. I imagine that this property would be connected to that when it happens. So, but I certainly would support an IA system if we can't connect it directly to the downtown sewer system. Jesse, do you know do you expect in a relatively short window to have a sewer district in the village?
It's a good question, Jay. More of a conversation, broader conversation. From what we're hearing from H2M and our sewer task force, optimistically, a sewer is 3 to 5 years out. We would wish and would hope it would be sooner, but unlike West Hampton, we don't have the infrastructure to tap into. And then our conversations with the hospital are on pause because of COVID-19 and their focus there, even though we do have a plan to tap in there with H2M. So it is significant work. So the IA septic system would likely be a better, more easy possibility right now for this project.
Well, we could just have holding tanks if we know that in a year or two that we'd be able to connect to the village system. We could have holding tanks that would have to be pumped every once in a while, but we wouldn't have to spend the money on an entire IA system. I think that would be the most sensible way I could imagine it operating.
Sensible,
Yeah, you'd have to
yes,
match
but
that against the distribution plan of the district. I don't know if they've gotten to that far. We had a similar issue like that in Flanders, where we put in holding tanks with the idea of connecting to the sewage district, and it's still an ongoing issue. So it may be cost prohibitive if you have to keep pumping. I don't know what the expected traffic would be in there, but given that if you're putting in individual IA systems or a small cluster system, I would do a cost analysis on that. We ran into that problem, so it is a concern because the cost actually could exceed what you got there.
Yeah, and
I
it's
do
also
have oh, go ahead.
the health department. They won't typically approve holding tanks. They don't like holding tanks, so as sensible as that is, that may not be a viable option. We might have to go to IA here, and if a sewer does, get constructed, I don't know whether you can repurpose the IA or just leave this property on the IA. Maybe.
Well, the way it was set up in Flanders is that they would approve the holding tank, with a finite time to hook up, provided that you could show the district was going to go by there and what the cost of that pipe would actually be, the infrastructure in front of it and all that kind of stuff. The problem that was run into was that, the timing kept slipping way ahead. And so if you put the IA system, the hookup to the IA system, but you set that up in front of the holding tanks like you're talking about, Bill, then you got those two different structures. It gives you that option. And I think it's just purely based on what it would cost in the long run, given the worst and best case scenarios.
All right. It's a detail though, I guess we can figure out later on.
And I put that on the list. We can cost that out. I just looked, Roger had given me detailed budget for the nitrogen system for the home. And, he gave me some, what he considered options. So I will put a star next to this for us to cost that out.
And that is something, the nitrogen system, I think we'll be able to provide through a grant. We'll see.
Yeah,
but
he
I
has
think
the price here for the nitrogen system for the visitor center bathroom here. It's very detailed for the home. He's got a very detailed nitrogen system and plumbing options. So I'll put a star next to this as a possible grant source.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, Nicole.
Sure.
Any other questions? All
Thank
right.
you very much.
I wanted to clarify, was we went with the IA system. I was the question asked that would we possibly be able to go back to CPF for this? Was that?
Yes.
Did I hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a granting source.
That was my question, whether it would be a separate application or wrapped up into this, and Lisa answered that it could be wrapped up so that you wouldn't have the problem that Nicole was describing. It's all under one application.
Right. So yeah, we could encumber the funds out of our water quality program for that purpose.
Wonderful. Okay.
And
so Bill, with that, do you think that would we be trying to go more lead with this building, Bill? If we're thinking about solar island, what are you thinking around that?
Right. The building will be state of the art in every way. As to whether or not we want to find monies to go through the certification process in order to get the actual plaques that say LEED Platinum, LEED Gold, or whatever, that can be pretty expensive. You may decide not to actually get the formal certification, but the building itself, if you know me, that's going to be, that's the only standard we use.
Oh, thank you. All right, we're going to have to move on. I want to thank everybody. This was terrific. I'm really excited about this project. In my mind, the sooner we can make this happen, the better. So it sounds like the board is all in alignment on this one. Everybody wants to see this happen. So we thank you for coming on, sharing the vision, and let's make it happen.
I just want to say hello to Rick too.
Thank
I
you.
sent you a letter at one point. I just want to say hello. It's good to see your face.
Yes, thank you. Great plan. I'm saying, everything, the vision. Thank you for the hard work. Thank you for the vision. Great job.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Onward and upward. Onward and upward.
All right. Take care, everybody. Take care, Mayor.
All right. Thanks, Supervisor. All right.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Good to see you, Jim Burt.
Yeah, good seeing you, Nicole.
A small world. We can't get away from each other.
That's right. That's right. My pleasure. Anytime.
We'll talk.
Yep, definitely. Good seeing you, Nicole. Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we're going to move on the agenda. Our next item, we're going to talk about the Good Ground Park Road extension. I want to bring in Jenna Shiro. She's here. And Elisa Combrink is here as well. So let me introduce this a little bit. So when we did the form-based code and the corridor study and a lot of planning for the Hampton Bays area, we have understood that downtown Hampton Bays, Montauk Highway runs through downtown Hampton Bays, and as that downtown develops, the traffic may worsen. We have some lights in that area. And so it's always been part of the planning to create a secondary route to get to Good Ground Road, which is the road that intersects with, what's that? I always forget the name of that road.
Springville.
Thank you. Springville Road, where Matsu Lin is on the corner of the movie theater is on the corner there. We've been trying to figure out how we get from Good Ground Road, which goes by the train station, over to the light. And we had looked at other locations, but everywhere other than the light is a problem for traffic flow. So we've been trying to figure out how to get a road along the railroad tracks that then turns and joins the light by, Macy's, Panera, the diner. The obvious issue there is that the diner building itself is smack in the middle of where the road really needs to go to make that a safe intersection. So we have been talking with the folks who own the diner and trying to come up with some creative solutions. Obviously, we could condemn it, which is not a particularly friendly thing to do, and can be expensive, or we could work together to try to resolve the problems. Obviously we can't split their lot into two slivers. So we've been trying to figure out how we can give them a viable commercial property, the same size as what they currently have, and still allow for the road to be constructed through there. And we've had a number of conversations to this effect, and we've been trying to make it work. We have the state little sump behind it too. There's an easement through their property for a drainage pipe that's underneath the diner parking lot. And Janice has worked really hard on this, and we think we have some interesting ideas. So Janice, I'm going to turn it over to you and allow you to present this.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. Right. So I think it would just be easier if I share my screen, because the visually it would just be easier to talk through it. So I'm just going to do that now and start with this from our draft. Our actual adopted corridor, Hampton Bays Corridor Strategic Plan, which is the guiding document from our comp plan. We did a whole corridor plan leading up to its adoption in 2013. One of the recommendations from the plan was to rethink the VB section in the Hamlet Center, which led to the pattern book, which led to the form-based code. But this document still lives on as some recommendations. So you see here that, the traffic leading up and the visual of the diner. And down here was the idea that this, and maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. This area could be, the potential road entry exit for Good Ground Road. See, so you wouldn't, the diner no more, because even back then we knew it was probably not going to always be there, although we would have liked it to stay. It just isn't really a viable building anymore. And then it says here, a visual focus, a landscape feature, an icon, etc. So our comp plan already kind of preconceived this as a roundabout. Of course, we're just talking about going straight through at this point in time. So looking at that, then we are talking, as Jay described. Do you see this now on my?
I still have the same visual.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me unshare. How do I? Uh-oh. Hang on a second. I'm sorry. Give me one moment. Why can't I unshare that screen?
Yeah, I will unshare and then you start over.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Phew. You might have to do that again on the next one. So now I'm on to this one. Share.
That's what I do.
You're the best, Charles. Okay. Now we're on to this idea, which Supervisor was just talking about. Here's Springville Road, and Good Ground Road ends at this point. When Woodbridge apartments were constructed, we have a 50-foot dedicated easement here. So they gave us a dedication already, because this roadway has always been considered in the long range plan for Hampton Bays. So moving down, you would see, you know, how it would hopefully go toward the back and come up, you know, and like Jay said, smack in the middle of the diner is how it lines up to the light. So, and the small little easement from DOT. When this parcel adjacent to Friendly's was purchased, it was purchased with various funding sources because we knew the road was going to eventually come through the back of this. And so it's only really CPF parkland in the front, and in the rear of it is all general municipal purposes. So in trying to like see about how to kind of scoot them over, right? We can't go this way because this is rapid recovery, but could we go this way? Now, it's never really popular to undo a CPF purchase. However, it wouldn't be really undoing it. We do own this here. When Friendly's was constructed, we have this parcel that's unrestricted town property for general municipal purposes. Turns out this property size is actually larger than this property size. So it would be a little bit equal. It would be a little more in terms of square footage if we were to say, okay, let's change the status here, move it here. So equal for equal, actually you get a little more. This would be restricted, not counting the roadway. I'm talking outside of the roadway area is actually larger than this area, right? And then this area here next to between rapid recovery and the road would also then be a new gateway area that could be reclaimed, revegetated, beautiful entrance. You know, all the groups that put the community that put signage and benches and things could put things here. And that's really, you know, the way I have to say, the way we see it is the entrance into Hampton Bays is the community of Hampton Bays. It's not really predicated on any building or diner or anything. It's really the community itself. So this is the concept. And then I would ask to unshare this again, Charles.
So you're basically shifting the diner property to the east.
We're asking if we could think about shifting them, and then we reshare now too.
And the parcel to the west would be a good ground right back.
So this gets swapped, kind of traded for this being now encumbered. The green becomes encumbered CPF. The red becomes unencumbered, and we shift them over. And then we reclaim all of that from the building to the west is just the roadway entrance. And then all this gets reclaimed as, you know, vegetated entrance. And that's the idea that we've been trying to explore here. So I wanted to.
Do you have a map that shows the final parcel that would be the diner parcel? And because it would be some of the.
Can you unshare again, Charles?
So some of the current diner parcel would still be part of the future diner parcel, a triangle of it.
Right, exactly. Let me just find where I'm looking
and the
for.
diner parcel would then be on a corner. It would be on a corner of Montauk Highway and I guess it's Good Ground Road extension.
Yep,
so
and let me get to
from
that.
an economic viability of the lot, it's, you know, there
Okay,
might be some
so this is sort of the idea here. So here is what I just said. So this is what they own right now. They own this whole thing.
black line, yeah.
They own this. We could shift them over. We only need what's equal to what we have, right? So this part that we own is equal to this part that they own. So we would get this and they would get that. And they would keep this, which is already theirs, right? Then afterwards, so now you see we would get all this. The road would just be a portion of it. And then it would come down and down through this roadway here to connect, as I showed you on that GIS map. And then, as I said, this parcel is 60. Right. And I've asked Jim Burke and we did initially talk to DOT about it, but we would need to, and they conceptually said they wouldn't have a problem with it, but we need to actually get that done, that easement area. And then, so then, like I said earlier, this area is 63,797 square feet that would be encumbered under CPF. And this area, let me just go back to partial, like this little spot that I said we would trade is 57,464. So we actually trade for trade, we end up with a little more CPF plus all the land that you want to, like revitalize on the gateway in. So that's the basic concept that I'm here to ask if.
Do you have a drawing that shows sort of like the final road position? I thought there was.
Well, you can see it here, proposed right of way.
There was another drawing I thought that sort of had the road, like where the lanes are and things like that, but.
I don't have that today, no. I mean,
It showed more of a bend in the road. It wouldn't be those corners.
It wouldn't be, yeah, we just did it without, this is requiring the easement area. I may have something else. DOT property. It doesn't really do it justice, but hold on a second. Charles, can you unshare again so I could reshare this one? Thanks.
And the created area to the west of the road would be a gateway.
So this is that same idea, but this was going through that triangle DOT parcel. So you would see sort of this, we weren't going to like design a whole road here until the board had a chance to look at it and decide if this is the direction you want to go. But this was just sort of the, curvature of the road in that case.
An idea how the road would move through that area. So that's good. And I think the rest is sort of obvious. And so now, Lisa, before we turn this over to questions, first of all, thank you. I think this is a creative solution that allows the commercial property to continue to be viable. In fact, in some ways more viable because they'll be on a corner there. Makes it a little bit easier to get in and out. Two road frontages can be a good thing if you're, in business. There is some steps here, though. I understand that there's going to be at the end more CPF property than at the beginning, and I'm assuming that the property is equally valuable from a environmental perspective, the property we're getting to the one we're giving. But we would need to go, the state legislature would have to approve the swap. And I think under the CPF rules, the public would also have to approve the swap.
Absolutely.
That's correct, Mr. Supervisor. The CPF law, as you know, is very strict on what we call alienation or giving away the town's interest in lands purchased with CPF monies. So under certain limited circumstances, a swap, as Janice has described, is permissible, but there are a number of steps that have to be followed, and that the land has to be of similar or equal value or greater value, and and the parcels have to be similar, so they're close in location. I think Janice explained that the piece that would be swapped is actually larger, and then that proposed swap is subject to a mandatory referendum and also an act of the state legislature. So, there's a lot of homework that has to be done before it could be done, but and it's made difficult for a reason, but it is certainly possible. And it sounds like we'd have to get the appraisals done and whatever, but that that it looks hopeful in terms of the criteria.
and I've had some preliminary conversations with Assemblyman Thiel about this, so he at least understands what we're thinking here. Can I say a couple additional things? One is that, downtown Hampton Bays is already, the traffic can be quite bad already. And, there are some proposed uses that I don't need to mention that could happen, that could make it worse. So, as people come home from work, et cetera, to be able to have this ability to get past downtown and enter this, the primary area where people live in Hampton Bays, I think could be a real relief valve. Also for fire, obviously, as well, fire, police, ambulance. So we had looked at bringing in this road in other locations. And if you look at the map that's still up, it's really complicated. So if you try to bring it in east of the Macy's intersection, without a light, you really can't make a left. So if you're coming up this good ground road, how do you get across the highway to get back to 24? You can't. And the same problem exists if you bring the road further west. You have lots of conflicts, right? You have properties that are owned and developed in that area. And even if you could get past them, you have the same thing. So how do you access it if you're coming from 24? You have to make the right, and then do we have to add another light to make the left? It's extremely complicated. That's why we really came to the conclusion that the only way to do this is to come out at the light, at the main intersection. And once you make that realization, the options are limited. So this is really, I think, a elegant solution that is business friendly in terms of cooperating with the owners of the diner property. We end up with more green space than we currently have. We get a logical road, and we get the relief valve that I think is going to be increasingly more critical as time progresses. So with that, let me turn it over to the board and see what kind of questions we have. And I'm hoping we're able to move this forward, get some input from our civics and CACs, and hopefully get some support for this concept.
I'll start, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So my first thing is, I know, Janice, you said that the DOT seemed amenable to it. So is like, what's first, the chicken or the egg? Do we got to get permission to have that little triangle? Only because I think that a sharp turn there won't be helpful, but a more gradual curve maybe would be fine. So do we have to do that first, or does that come later in the process?
I think we should, this is Jim, I think we should pursue it now. And just, you can kind of do it concurrently with everything else is going on, but in the state, it takes a while for them to review everything's. We can start with the Hauppauge office. You have the regional office in Hauppauge. You can reach out to them. I've actually reached out to them already. And then everything, primarily everything gets reviewed up in Albany anyway. So it's going to be some time. So I think it's a good thing to start it now, for sure.
Okay, good. Thank you. And my second thing is just a confirmation to the pub. Go ahead.
On that one question, Julie, so first of all, I think the DOT will be fine with it personally, because it's not touching their sump, but there's an advantage to them by this plan. So currently, if we don't have the screen shared anymore, but there is a drainage pipe that goes through the parking lot of the diner that goes to that sump that carries all the water. And this will actually now put that drainage pipe, I believe, underneath the new road. So suddenly it becomes serviceable, repairable. There is a huge advantage in my mind to having the drainage pipe on public property rather than on private property. So there's something in it for the state, I think, significant. So I think they'll work with us on it.
Sure, and although just dual jurisdiction with Montauk Highway there, it is in fact a state road maintained by the county. So you're also bringing relief off of that road, so that it should be helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
I respect. I mean, it's inside the fence, so, but it does. There is a process, and I'm familiar with the
All right,
process. So
And my second, I just want to make a statement to the community, because, and we've talked about this before, of the community signs that go in that little area that's going to be transferred, that there will be a place for the community to have the Welcome to Hampton Bays sign, any community signs that in the past have been able to put up their flower bed and all that stuff that's been there. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that. And lastly,
actually the beautification, we could really encourage, like, Hampton Bays beautification with Susan to get involved and help, kind of design how that's going to look. That would be exciting for them, hopefully.
right. And Janice, just on this, just as I was looking at that map, it occurred to me, we have right before, if you're heading west on Montauk Highway going right onto 24, there's that intersection with the atrium entrance that's has many accidents. And I'm wondering the impact. It seems to me that adding this extension may take some weight off of that impact, because people have another way to get around through town. So I would definitely like somebody to take a look at that to see if I'm right, because it just popped into my head, but it looks like it would help that entrance, and there are lots of accidents there. So I think that would be a plus.
Agreed. And we would obviously do some traffic assessment when we design the road.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So Janice, on the new piece of property, do they have access to the new Good Ground Road from their property?
Yes.
And do they have cross access with Salvatore's?
Can I share my screen again? I'll just go back to this. Is it working?
Not yet.
Weird.
Charles, is it something you have to do to allow her to show here?
Here we go. This is just GIS. So you're saying, let me just go to the aerial. You're asking if this will have cross access. There would be the roadway.
No,
here.
higher up, right on Montauk Highway, the new parcel butts up against Salvatore's or the old Friendlies.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Yeah, they have cross access into that parking lot, because
Yes,
there's that
we
right
would,
hand turn.
anything they do, we would want Friendlies to be able to, we already have cross access here. They would have to be able to connect and go back to the road. So these guys would be able to get to the road, and these would have cross access across. So however they design a building here, they would have to include the cross access.
That would be great. I mean, then if you're at Salvatore's and you wanted to get to 24, you wouldn't have to cross, the 2 lanes of traffic. You could go.
Yeah, like to come out. Yeah, you would just come this way and come to the
Yeah,
light.
that would be a great advantage.
And does the zoning move with the parcel? So anything they could have done at the diner, they can do on the new parcel?
That's right. It's still the same zoning.
Okay. So Jay, Janice and I went on a Zoom with the Civic Association on Monday, and we brought this up real quickly. Nobody was surprised. I mean, this has been on people's minds and on dockets for years. They were sad to possibly lose the diner as an icon in Hampton Bays, but I think we've all kind of consoled ourselves to the fact that that's probably going to happen, and the alternative could be a lot worse. So I think the preliminary idea of a gateway that would help us relieve traffic with everything else that's going on in, the eastern half of Hampton Bays, I think may be pretty receptive to it. Janice, I think it went pretty well.
I hope so.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we did get a comment, someone was saying, like, wouldn't this be a great microbrewery? And of course it would, but also we have all that form-based code where you can put it all in close proximity to the train and, the new downtown too. So it's not like we couldn't have a microbrewery, just unfortunately not where this building stands today.
Right.
And as I heard you say too at that Civic, that building needs to be torn down. It's not like somebody can, even if we didn't do this, it could suddenly become a microbrewery. It's the condition of it is apparently not great. So, but there's no reason, I don't know if the zoning would allow it, but the new diner property could be used in that fashion if it's an allowable use in the, what is it, highway business zone?
Yeah. Yep. Let's just go to zoning. Yes, I believe it is, but I'll just put on the zoning later.
I'm pretty sure it's HB.
Actually, it's OD.
Well, hold on.
Office district.
Where's the line? right now the diner
Looks
is,
like this is HB and this is OD. So we do have a zone line in between these parcels. I thought it was the same.
yeah, so we'll have to sort that out because I think the diner would expect to keep its highway business use. And it would have a portion of it in highway business and a portion of it in OD, correct? It would be a split parcel.
Right. They could move the line by 50 feet, but that wouldn't help them. Yeah, that will be something that you'd have to first assume that, you'd have to go through the process, right? And the same concurrently, you would consider, I guess, moving this line one over to keep HB there. Yeah. OD allows for, I would, at a different work session or just on email, I'll provide everybody with all the things OD allows versus HB. And, but yeah, I would agree. They would expect the same zone if they're going to agree to it.
Right. That seems like it wouldn't be unreasonable to shift that line.
Right.
It has no effect,
Right.
basically. The Hampton Bays the diner property is currently HB. The new diner property would stay HB. Yeah.
Right. We'll obviously have to work on that. So we can talk about that further. But really today is just like, how do you feel about this concept? And, can we move forward with asking the state to at least consider it in their realm to give us the authority to then allow for a referendum vote?
Yeah, Janice, we did speak about a traffic light when you came out of Good Ground Road on Springville Road there. That would slow down the traffic a little bit. Yeah, when you came out on the Springville intersection, there would be a light there.
Yeah, there would have to be. There's no way that you could do that without a light, I think.
Yeah,
And
it's
it kind of would
become-
have to kind of dip down a little bit. So,
Yeah, it's an offset intersection, how it is.
yeah, it's a little funky. But that would be something we would hire a traffic engineer to, look at. Also, I just want to mention that in the form-based code, we provided a whole situation where developers would have to pay a mitigation fee toward the construction of the road. So because they're, adding density, et cetera, it would be a pro rata share to help us construct the road.
I don't think it's much of an offset intersection. I think you're looking at the Long Island Railroad right away and thinking that's where the road is. The road is to the north of so across from Good Ground Road, across from Springville rather.
Yeah, 50 feet north of that white line you see there.
It's pretty close to a straight continuation across is where the road would be. Zoom out just a little bit. It's 50 foot from the Long Island Railroad right away.
I see what you're saying, okay.
Oh, yeah, this is just a right of way, yeah.
Okay. Good.
So it's pretty.
And that would be a
regular
multimodal road with sidewalks and bike lanes, et cetera. That would be
I
what we
agree
would
with-
seek to design it.
I agree, though, we'll need a light there. We will need a light there.
Yes.
And it should be one. So that's sort of a problem making that left sometimes onto Good Ground Road as it is. Yeah, you can see there too, the 50-foot right of way, it's not shown, but you can see how the development will allow for that road to continue straight through.
Right. It's actually on their site plan. They show the road.
Yeah. It's a little, a little narrower than Good Ground Road. Good Ground Road has the diagonal parking on it. It's a wider road right away. So, I mean, the state doesn't require a referendum, I don't believe. They can do that simply at the state legislature, which I would support them giving us the ability, and then we have to then take it to the people here. It would actually, the referendum locally would be townwide. It would not just be Hampton Bays. We're going to have to put it on the ballot everywhere. It can be done as a special election. So rather than putting it on in the November election, we could move it quicker. I don't know what the cost associated with that would be. I think the first step is to sort of get some conceptual, some input on the concept from, the Civic and the
CAC.
CAC, and, the various, PTAs or whatever groups that are involved in the Hampton Bays community. And we have two board members who are from Hampton Bays. I think they have a pretty good pulse on the community. And if there's at least approval for us to get this to a vote, I'd like to do that. I'd like to put it on the ballot and let the people decide. And then we'd have the option then to create this roadway. And we obviously, it's not going to be cheap to build this road. We're going to have to bond and build a new town road. But I do believe it's important to have this road. Otherwise you're going to continue to have real, downtown congestion without a relief. Obviously somebody who's going downtown, but if you're not going downtown, if you're just trying to get home, it'll make a big difference. All right, anyone else? So are we okay with progressing this forward?
Yes.
All right. Can we do a presentation to the CAC and the Civic? Let's start there. Janice,
Sure.
with more of a detailed presentation.
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I suppose they could.
I'll set that up.
video this, but I'm happy, I don't know if you want me to be there or Rick or Julie, or we can
More the
start.
merrier. We just can't have a quorum, I think. Other than that, we're good. Or you have to notice it as a special meeting if you'd like to all be there, or whoever, more than two.
I don't know that we'll need to do it as a special meeting. I just think we need to be able to answer all their questions.
Sure. So I'll reach out to them and ask to have a meeting about this for both groups, and we'll go from there. And we'll also reach out to Assemblyman Thiel to ask him to consider moving it where it needs to go in Albany after we talk to the civic groups.
We might even want to get it moving in Albany just because they break in June. So if he doesn't get that bill submitted, we may lose a whole year potentially on it. So
Right. Well, we can send it to him
that,
and do everything simultaneously. You're right. And Jim can talk to DOT also. So we should
Right.
really, everything should be moving all together parallel.
even if Albany authorizes a swap, it would be contingent on public referendum. So it wouldn't actually lead to the swap unless the public voted for it. So
that's right.
My sense is that the state piece could probably move forward. The one other time sensitivity is so far the owners of the diner have been cooperative. But Janice knows too that they text us or email us rather every few days saying, well, is there anything happening here? And they have to make a business decision. They could sell their property, develop their property. They're paying property taxes on it as we consider building a road through their building. They have been pretty, I would say they've been willing to work with us. But I think it's our responsibility to try to do this expeditiously, to not expect them to be in a holding pattern for forever here. So, if the public doesn't want to do it, then we don't do it. If the public does want to do it, then I think we should do it. We just need to do that kind of outreach.
Okay. Thank you all very much. We'll keep moving forward and give you some updates on the progress.
Janice, do we have the plans that you showed? That's what we have so far, right? I was speaking with DOT. They were looking for what else I could show them.
Let me see if I have anything else. I think I do have some other drawings. I'm not sure Janice does. I'd have to dig them out, Jim.
Okay.
But we can get you whatever we have.
Yeah. We'll start off with what we have, and then we'll probably need something a little more, some type of engineering, something a little more formal as we go. We'll need the
right. We didn't really get that far down the road so to speak, because we want to, it's just really conceptual right now,
Yeah.
but we can get that and get that to them.
It actually looks like the area we're talking about with the easement is outside the fence from the
It is,
the area.
but it's
Yeah,
still
that-
their property.
That actually makes it a lot easier. Basically, if you're doing outside the fence, I think they're a little even that much more willing to work with you. So that's good.
The good news is that they're traffic engineers and they understand that the need for the traffic part,
Sure.
that part of it,
Exactly.
you know, in that way, they get that understanding that we're desperate for the road to be
Yeah,
able
but-
to alleviate the traffic there.
Right. As a supervisor, we're not impacting the use of the property at all. So
We're actually improving it.
right.
We're improving it in the sense that the easement now will be on the public property, under a road and accessible, not under private property. I think that's a big advantage personally, but
Mhm. Yeah, I've reached out to their head of the right of way. He says he thinks it's very doable. That was his response back to me initially. So that's a good sign. Yeah, so,
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So all these moving parts will just keep moving to, you know, coordinated together, try to get to an outcome here that, which is the vote. Did you have any other questions?
anybody have any other questions for Janice? All right, Janice, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
All right, I guess next on the agenda is updates. And let me see what I have here. Just give me a second. I don't know if Ryan is going to do an update. Is Ryan on? No, okay, then
I don't think so.
I see Diana Weir is coming on. We do have a public hearing coming up on the Community Law Enforcement Review Committee's draft plan. It's going to be a special meeting on March 2nd at 6 p.m. The draft plan and the Zoom access information is found on the town's website. I thank Tommy John, who's been on that committee throughout. We've had at least over a dozen meetings. And of course, Christine Scalera, who worked very hard as deputy town attorney on this plan, and Chief Skrinicki and all the participants. And we've had lots of participants. It's I think it's a good plan. Where is Tommy John? Did we lose him? I'm not seeing Tommy John, but we'll have to find out if we can get Tommy John back. But so that's, I encourage all of you, well, you guys will really need to be there. This is a town board meeting hearing on the plan, and then we can make changes accordingly. And other than that, I don't have anything on my list for updates. So who wants to go next?
Diana, since you're on, I just had a question about the facade program. That's still in effect for 2021?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have the eSpa Salon and Day Spa. She has an application in. It's really the first time we've had we've had a lot of interest, Gators and that gentleman Lee, who was next to the movie theater. There's going to be a CVS. So we've had a lot of interest, but she's the one that actually put in a full-blown application. And really, it's just an awning, very small amount, about $5,000 or $6,000. But I'm excited to get it done so people will be able to talk about it. The property is owned by Tim Corbin. We got his approval to do the improvement. So yes, anybody who's interested, both East Quad and Hampton Bays corridor along Montauk Highway are eligible.
Okay, great. Thank you. We brought it up at the civic meeting on Monday. That's why. Just want to make
good.
sure I was correct that it's, it was through 2021.
Yeah, no, it's ongoing, and I need to spend the money, and it's a maximum of $30,000. We will only pay for materials. We will not pay for the work or the labor. Because this way, we don't have to worry about, WICs and all those laws, blah, 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 with the Davis-Bacon and all the things that we would have to comply with. So it works out okay because the owner has to do 25% of the cost anyway. So it works out well.
Can I
Great,
just say, Tommy John is part of the meeting still. He's just having, or we're having some technical issues, though. He is listening, and he can communicate as well through me, but you won't be able to hear him or see him. But if he can get his internet connection back, he'll rejoin, but he's still part of this meeting. Diana, while you're here, the housing plan, you want to give us an update as to where we are with the housing plan?
They gave us the first draft right around the holidays when we got the second wave of this COVID and we all went back to working, different times. Janice looked at it, Dave Wilcox, myself, Michael Lieberman. So we made a bunch of changes, corrections, updates, information that we didn't know we had. I found 6 more apartments through the planning process in Watermill, 1 more affordable apartment in Bridgehampton. So we ended up discovering more units that we have available. And also we updated the mobile home section. She just put that there were 2 mobile homes, and Julie, thank you for that, because I went to planning and it turns out we have about 10 mobile home parks and about 300 units. So we wanted to make sure that was addressed in the plan as well. What VHB did, they went to the state, which monitors and, administers all those permits for the mobile home parks, and they didn't have a full blown. So we went through planning and we got all the mobile home parks. So we're ready for a second draft, which will probably be presented to you guys pretty soon.
Okay. Diana, our senior programs, we're still delivering meals, right? But the senior centers are still not open, right?
Yeah, the senior centers are still not open. We are on 50% staffing, but it was left to the department heads, and it was getting a little tough in seniors with the cooking and trying to get all the meals out. We're doing about 400 or 500 meals a day. So the staff that normally would be doing senior sitting are now helping pack food, so everybody's been working and they needed a little more help. So I gave Liz permission to bring the staffing up a little bit to fill whatever needs she had to keep those seniors fed.
Are we checking on the seniors just to make sure? It is a very hard time. People, they're not getting this, they're getting the food and the nutrition, but not the socialization.
Well, Heather at the senior center there, she developed a Zoom meeting every Friday for those seniors that want to participate, and they play games and do yoga. We put yoga up on a website on YouTube, and Heather is working with all the seniors who need help getting, technical help to get started. So they're doing that. They did have that tour where they went to all the houses with balloons and kind of saying, how you guys doing? And the bus drivers are awesome. Our drivers are awesome because they do check and are able to say hi, even though they don't get face to face. So yes, we're very cognizant that that's very important for them. But I think they're doing okay. Surprisingly, with the phone calls, we do wellness calls too, So we do call and they talk to somebody. They rotate, the names, and we do have those people that are being called also.
And if, Diane, if somebody is watching this on channel 22 and, they might not be aware of the senior programs we offer. So can you just say a word or two about if somebody is in need of some nutritional assistance, who qualifies, how do you get to be part of that?
You only have to be over 62 years old to qualify to eat, at the senior centers. The home delivered service was very limited. It was only for homebound. But now since everybody's homebound, you can apply and kind of, be able to get food as well. There is no monetary check on how much income you make. There are no limits. You just have to be a senior citizen. We always had to drive you to doctors, but now because of the spacing, we can't get enough seniors in a van, separate, because they're not big buses to get them in there. But those programs are available. Any questions they have, they can always call the senior center and be able to get as many questions answered as they need.
There's a cost for the meal, right? It's like $3 or $4.
Well, there is it's a voluntary donation, so you don't have to. For those people that don't want to or can't afford it, they do not have to. But there is a voluntary $2 or $3, yes.
Suggested, okay. Yeah, no, it's a great program. It helps an awful lot of people.
On another note, we will have about 4 units that are going to be resales. And I'm working now to finally get that moving because COVID stopped, nobody's working, everybody's working at half staff. But we're going to have those 4 units up for a lottery and clean up our list of our housing registry. So I'm in the process of doing that now. 3 of them are 55 and older communities, Eagles Walk and West Hampton Pines. And the other one is the home in Sagaponic with the accessory apartment. So we're working on getting that moving, and hopefully in the spring, March, April, we'll have 4 resales available to people in the community.
Great. Other questions for Diana while she's here?
Everybody's been great. Julie, Rick, I know you were in at the meetings for concern. Thank you so much, guys, John, for being there. And we are having, I think, a call on 112 Riverhead Road to talk about that coming up. So.
All right, good. And what are the youth programs? Are we doing similar things with the youth to make sure they're okay?
They're doing some programs, limited, but they are doing some programs. A lot of what is needed is the counseling, even though they do it by phone or on Zoom, because, the kids are starting to get depressed and they have all these other issues that they need also the socialization. So they're working on that as well. And I think they're also doing the youth court, even though it's lesser amount and they're doing Zoom. So they're trying to keep their hand in to help some of these kids that need the help. So, yes.
All right. And Diana, you have the information for the executive session, right? The call-in number?
No, I do not.
Yeah, we're not doing that here. We do that on the phone. The executive.
Okay, I don't have to be in on it if I'm not needed. So I don't think I have anything.
I don't know. What is it on executive session that has to do? We own it.
No.
What is, and maybe that's an open session item. What is the issue with 112? Do you know, Jim?
What's that? I'm sorry. It's good.
What's the issue on exec with the senior center?
I don't have it on it. I don't have it as a topic.
Not on the agenda.
It's not on the agenda, Jay. It's just a meeting we're gonna have on status and moving forward.
Oh, it's just a meeting. Okay.
Yes, it's
All
not
right. So
nothing.
it's not on execs. Okay, I got confused there. All right. Is there anything else you guys want to update us on? I'm gonna look real quickly to see if I have any other updates.
Bye-bye, guys. Bye.
Bye, Dana.
Oh, I did have, we do have some questions about the moratorium, which is expiring on the in the Shinnecock Hills area. About do we want to extend the moratorium? Jim, is that something that you can speak on, or?
Yeah, to the extent we've had discussions on it, as you know, I spoke yesterday again with Janice and with Kathleen. Janice is working on, and planning's working on the study of the area and considerations for code changes. We are most likely looking for a short extension of the moratorium to about another 3 months, I believe is what we're looking to do. I believe that resolution will be on shortly to extend it for another 3 months.
For three months, okay. And we do have a town archaeologist. I understand that contract is now executed. And so the idea behind the moratorium obviously was to give us some time before more development occurred that might disturb burial sites, that we would put some things into our town code. You know, in certain areas, or, you know, different places that we felt were culturally sensitive, and maybe before you dug a big hole, you'd have to just try to do some due diligence that, you know, it's not likely that there would be a, you know, it might be a burial or a artifact-rich area. So we did pass the Graves Protection Act. That deals with when you actually find remains, and no matter how much archaeology you do in an attempt to avoid disturbance could happen. So we do have that law in place, and I think that's a really good law. But the moratorium is different. The moratorium pertained to some areas in Shinnecock Hills, the Sugarloaf area, which was recognized by the state as the historic burial grounds, and then the Fort Hill area, which was archaeologically rich as an important habitation area. And then we did extend the Sugarloaf rules to the area that included Hawthorne Road, because we had that about 2 or 3 years ago, the situation, as you remember, I'm sure, there. So we have to just decide what it is we're doing. I am buying another 3 months is important because we do have the archaeologists who's supposed to guide us. And I don't know what the final code will look like. I think in terms of Sugarloaf, that area that this on the state map, I think the rules have to be very similar to what the moratorium rules are. Personally, if you're going to dig a hole there, you really should do archaeology, not for planting a tree per se, but for, you know, a shed, not a garage or a pool or something like that.
Anywhere, anything where there's a real foundation, right?
You know, and everywhere else, you know, we have to decide what the boundaries are. If you have a vacant lot and you're building a new home and you're in one of these sensitive areas, it's part of the cost of construction. I don't think it's a big deal. I think the problem is going to arise with the people doing more minor work, you know, putting in the garage or the swimming pool and in some of those areas, and how far we want to go, where we want to draw the line. I had a meeting with somebody who's in the extended Sugarloaf area, and certainly understood our position, but felt that maybe that area had been singled out. You know, I explained, well, we did, I wasn't on the map, but there was the burial. And, you know, he pointed out that there's been other burials found in other areas of town too. And felt like, you know, his property was included and without really a scientific study, which I understand. It's different when you're on the state approved map. He's not on the state approved map. So, you know, I think it's something we can discuss. I think it's reasonable to just extend it as is for 3 more months. People can apply for exemptions. So Jim, is that sort of what you're thinking? Just a 3-month extension as is?
Yes, I believe that's what we were looking at.
And now that we have the archaeologist to kind of confer with Joanne McLean as to what our policies ought to look like going forward?
Right. That's correct. And most likely, I think as you mentioned, Mr. Supervisor, I believe it's a lot of the language that's contained in the exemption now will be what the code will most likely look like, or some version of that, I think is what we're looking to do, is to ensure that there is some type of study, the archaeological 1A, 1B, the ground penetrating radar, that in the areas that where there'll be construction for foundations on virgin land.
Have you assigned an attorney on this? I know when I worked on the Graves Protection Act, I worked hand in hand with Christine Scalera, but is there an attorney that's going to work on the code changes?
Yeah, I mean, Kathleen's been very involved. I can also, Christine has been involved in some degree as well. I can, you know, speak with both of them to see, you know, who has the time.
I don't want to go another 3 months and then have
Right.
somebody in the moratorium area say, Okay, that's 9 months and you've done nothing.
Right, right. It's more, right. At this time, I think it's more about a planning study, just to, as far as the planning department reviewing what we feel is necessary there. I think we have the language that we could do for a code change at this point, but it's just a matter of just pinpointing the areas where this should apply. I think that's probably as much as anything is looking at really where this should apply at this point. So it's more of a planning study than it is, legal right now. But we'll work with Janice. I know Janice's been extremely busy, and so we certainly will help and support her department on this as well.
All right, thank you, Jim. Anybody have any questions on that? So the moratorium expires soon, Jim. It's like March.
Yeah, depending on the exact date, because it was effective once filing with the state. So it'd be sometime in the end of middle to end of March, right? So,
Middle of March. So
yeah, probably. Yeah,
I think we need a public hearing, don't we, to extend it?
that's correct. Yeah, and that's what Kathleen was putting on the resolution to.
Okay,
to
that's
schedule that.
all right. Good. All right. Anybody else have any updates?
I have one quick one. Somebody had brought up the Concern for Living project. I know that everybody else met with them. When I spoke with them, I had asked them to reach back out to the CAC since they had changed the plan a little bit. So I believe they said that they would do that. I have been in touch with the CAC, and I hope that they get together and can discuss the updated plan.
Which CAC is that, Julie?
It's Southampton, Tuckahoe, Shinnecock Hills CAC.
I'm sorry, Julie. What were you suggesting? You want to take it back to the CACs?
Well, we had gotten an updated plan from the group, and one of the things that I had asked previously was for them to talk to the CAC. They did speak to some of the adjoining neighborhood groups, which I thought was great, but they had never reached out again to the CAC. So I thought again that, we like to hear the voices of the CAC. So I thought that they should get that updated information.
I mean, it seems like the only change is that they're no longer taking access through the two neighborhoods. Maybe there's other minor changes too, but
I think there was some site plan type of elements, but it was all pretty much generated by our planning department, by Janice, I believe. And they thought actually to Janice's credit, they loved her suggestions, and they thought not only is it a better plan for this project, but they're going to be adopting a lot of her suggestions on other projects moving forward. So
just my concern, Julie, is that the developer, which is a not-for-profit, has an option on this, and it's fairly expensive. It's like every month there's an extension. So we haven't actually held a public hearing on it yet. It's that two-step process. So we did the elect to consider. So now it's going to come in front of the town board. And I don't know if we have a date for a hearing on this, but
just look at this, they're going through the secret process now, I believe. Once the secret process is at the point where we'll have a public hearing, we'll have a public hearing for both the secret and the actual zone change.
Right. And so the whole community, CACs included, are welcome to weigh in at that point. I mean, it wouldn't hurt if the developer could meet with that group if you want to set that up. It just doesn't sound like much has changed from the last time.
I left that up to the developer and to the CAC. I put them together. I got the CAC the updated plans and information, and let them do what they want to do.
Sure.
So hopefully
I'll reach out.
If not, then we do have the public hearing process that they can participate in.
Yeah. I did speak to one of the residents in the Hillcrest neighborhood and who had been opposed to it and now is supportive of it, which is nice.
Yeah. I'll mention it, Julie, to their council that, I don't think they're ever shy or bashful about meeting with hesitant about meeting with any of the groups. So I'll mention that.
Yeah, they said they would. They didn't seem to have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Right. And we haven't done an elect to consider yet, have we, on the Quayog project?
I don't believe so, no.
Not yet? Okay. All right. All right. Any other questions or updates or concerns? You know, we didn't have Ryan on. COVID continues to be a real problem, although the numbers are lower. You know, it's still, you know, every day in Southampton town, there are, you know, a dozen or so new positives. I'm looking for that to get down to 0. I think we'll get there soon. I hope so if people are diligent. But there's just the tragedies continue to compile. You know, people I know directly or loved ones of people I know who are dying from COVID or COVID related complications. It's just an extraordinary tragedy, this pandemic. And we all need psychologically for it to be over. We just, you know, get vaccinated. I know some people don't want to get vaccinated. I just urge everybody to really get vaccinated. If you can get an appointment, you know, get vaccinated, continue to keep your guard up, mask wearing, social distancing, hand washing. You know, if we can get this to 0, even then we'll still have to probably be somewhat careful, but at least we'll be able to relax a little bit knowing that there's no current spread in the community. But right now there is spread in the community, and you know, we have to be mindful of that. All right, anything else? Okay, so we'll end our work session. We'll go into executive session. We all should have a phone number and the access code. We're going to talk about CPF. And by the way, January was the record CPF revenue all time. Over $13 million in 1 month of CPF revenue. It's the real estate market is not seemingly hurt by the pandemic. It's a record month, $13 million. That's double what we were getting on a typical month, more than double. So then we'll have confidential legal advice on a couple different matters, and then we'll talk about some collective bargaining agreements, contract negotiations, so I can sort of tell you where things are headed. All right, so let me make a motion to end our work session and go into executive session. All in favor? Oh, second by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tommy John, are you and I? Hold on a second. Tommy John is listening. His whole neighborhood has lost internet, optimum service. So if he texts me, I will convey it. Just we'll wait one more moment. We have enough folks to adjourn though. All right, well, we'll record the 4 votes because I haven't got a text yet from Tommy John.